So the duck dive is one of those skills that all surfers need to know. Sometimes you might go underneath like some sort of majestic dolphin and pop up the other side, while other times you go underneath and then find yourself bobbing around like a cork. In this video, we're going to look at the simple steps that you need to take to improve your duck dive. So let's dive deep into the duck dive. Let's look at the duck dive and how we can become more effective when it comes to duck diving. Now, prior to the video, I sort of sat you down and sort of said, well, look, can we break this down into some simple steps? And we've kind of come up with 4 simple steps that if we follow, will massively improve your duck dive. So let's go through each one of the steps. First one is you talk about having 2 moving forces, one of them being that momentum, and then the other force is one that not a lot of people really pay much attention to, but that's the force of the water itself. So tell us about the momentum first of all. Why is that so important?
Okay, so it's important when you're paddling up to the wave to duck dive to have some speed. It's almost like if you're going to try to pedal a bicycle. If you got no speed, the basket, you want to wobble and fall over. So just by getting some momentum towards the duck dive, you should be able to maintain your board in a straight line and then push it through. But if you got no speed, as you push down, the board's going to want to pop up. So it'll start wobbling. And then if it's wobbling prior to this wave breaking on your head, it's not a good thing.
And one of the mistakes that you say a lot of people that are relatively new to surfing make is that when they see the wave coming towards them, they get this kind of fear and then they stop paddling.
Yep.
When they actually need to keep that momentum going.
Correct. Okay, so it's that fight or flight response.
Yeah.
So a lot of them see it and they freeze up and they can't move. It's important to try to get as close to that wave as possible so you can duck dive and actually use the wave's energy to pull you through the back. And this is where I want to actually tap into what's happening on the inside of the wave, the intrinsic forces of that wave. So a lot of people, when they see a wave coming, they only are concerned about what's happening on the top half of the wave, the crest. But it's what's happening at the bottom of the wave. Because how much draw that wave has dictates to how much energy the wave has and how strong or how powerful that wave's going to be. So let's take a dive. If we watch this slowly, the wave breaks over, it crests, and now let's look under the wave.
Now the magic happens.
Under the sea. All right, so you can clearly see that there's a bottom of the wave and there's a top of the wave, and it's almost drawing up like that. Okay, so as we go on, you can clearly see that wave's quite nicely defined. Now look at when the lip breaks.
So is that white foam underneath?
That's the white foam underneath. Okay, so what's happened is water has thrown down and it's detonated. And that's creating some turbulence and some bubbles and all that kind of stuff. So when we duck dive, our job is to go underneath all that turbulence and to try come up through the back. Now, watch what happens with this white water back here. You'll notice that it gets pulled up to the top. Okay? So basically, if we do a good duck dive and we come up through the back, the wave can help pull you back up to the surface again.
If you had a sort of fat moving, just just not really throwing huge amounts, but just a big ball of foam. Are the principles still the same?
No, they're slightly different. So on a wave like this, I use the energy at the back to pull me through. On lots of foam, basically there's just turbulence everywhere. It's not clean and there's no draw through the back. So on the flat foam, you want to get as deep as you can, but you also want to kind of let the wave wash over you and that energy dissipate before you come up. So in the foam, the longer you take to come up, it's kind of like the wave travels past you and then the turbulence settles and it gets easier to paddle again.
Okay. So the first part of this is, one, we've got to get some momentum on our board to help us tap into that cylindrical sucking power, but also to help us gain balance. And the other part of that is understanding that force, that wave is going to be drawing up, which is going to pull us underneath and almost eject us back out the back.
We also, if you look at the iPad over here, and where the lip is thrown down and it's created that explosion of white water,
Yeah.
you need to get deep enough to get under that explosion and through to the back, where it will then suck you back up to the surface where all this clean water is up here. That's where we want to end up on the duck dive.
The timing of when you push the board under, when you actually push the nose of that board down, you penetrate the water,
Yep.
What is the timing? When do we start to initiate that duck dive?
So you can see the energy of the wave where water's actually been drawn up, and there's the round circle energy over here.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where the lip is breaking. I need to get under where that explosion is.
Okay.
Okay, so what happens is, let's clear this to give you a better understanding. So the wave's broken, it then bounces and rolls through, and it's a lot of turbulence.
Yep.
If you waited for your duck dive and you were, say, over here trying to duck dive, you're going to catch more turbulence. So if we can paddle to it, okay, and do our duck dive around about there, where we can actually push under that part of the wave and push under the energy,
Yep.
we will escape it. But a lot of people are fearful and they stop short of that, and they're getting exploded by all the energy. So you actually have to get as close as you can to that wave to actually get under it and to get to use the energy at the back half of the wave that's drawing the water up.
Yeah. Third step was get into a rhythm or flow state, I suppose, with that wave, which was about sort of doing that worm, sort of almost bending your body in flow with the wave.
You can actually feel the water drawing you back up. Now, if you don't push your board through and if you don't extend your board through, there's a very good chance that it can actually draw you back and you get sucked over the falls in your duck dive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's a very big no-no. So if you watch this point here, so I'm down, I'm under. Now, if I had to just try to float up, I might get sucked over by that energy back there.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do at this point, I go through and I actually miss all that energy.
Yeah. Yeah. That final step, which was the resurfacing, which is about extending the board out, making yourself as if you were pushing off of a pool wall so that you come back up to the surface.
A lot of people in a duck dive, they push under and the bodies just go limp. I actually activate my core to try to push my board through, but to keep my body stable and to keep control of that board.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of water moving backwards, moving forward. So it is like pushing off the pool wall. If you are more in a straight line, you are going to be less susceptible to all that water hitting you.
Yeah.
So you'll glide through that water better.
Number one is, and I mentioned it already, is that people stop paddling when they see the wave coming towards them through fear.
Yeah. I'd probably say step number 2, you want to get to that part of the wave where water's drawing up.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah. Another big mistake is a lot of people leave their bum sticking up, which then means that they get sort of caught in that foam.
Yeah, so if we go back to here, and a lot of people do a duck dive, and see, you can actually see how my leg lifts up. They kind of never get to, they're almost at this point over here actually, where they push the front down, okay, there, and they don't push the tail down. So if you watch my tail, when I push under, I level it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, right there, the nose is just a few inches off the sandbank, but then I try to get the tail almost that same distance off the sandbank. Okay, a lot of people are left with the tail in the air, and then what actually happens is, at that point, the wave hits their back and it hits the board, and they get dragged down or backwards.
Yeah.
Which is an unsuccessful duck dive.
Yeah. And another big mistake that a lot of people make is that when a big wave is coming towards them, they will ditch their board. And so the mistake here is I think it's really important when you're paddling out that you are really aware of who is around you, like other surfers in the area.
Yeah, so it is a really valid point. On average, we ride about 6-foot surfboards, but we've also got a 6-foot leash. So that means we've got a 12-foot strike radius around us.
Or plus the length of our body as well.
Yeah, and the length of our body, yeah. So that's almost like almost 18 feet of strike radius. So you've got to be mindful of ditching your board, that you don't let it go with inside of that strike radius. Generally, people with overbuoyant boards who aren't great at navigating conditions will ditch their board just purely because they haven't got the technique or the skill, and they're uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, just this morning, when we were out surfing this morning, I had the guy in front of me. He ditched a slightly bigger wave came through, and he ditched his board like straight towards me.
So when I did see that guy paddle, he had his feet out to the side, the chest was low. So straight away, there's an alarm bell going in my head going, this guy doesn't know how to paddle. And because he couldn't paddle, he couldn't duck dive. So I do steer clear. Like if those guys are paddling to duck dive, I'm paddling away from being behind them where the board's going to shoot back and strike me.
So it's not just being aware of what's behind you, it's also be aware of who's in front of you. And so one final thing to wrap up is if somebody does find themselves in that turbulence and they find themselves getting sort of washed backwards, what can we do?
If you held your board under the water, how would it normally come up? It would almost sort of float up sideways to the top.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you turned your rails sideways and your board sideways, it'll pop up really, really quick. So if you are being held underwater for a bit longer and you're getting uncomfortable, just turn your rails sideways and it'll pop you up to the top.
Okay.
So a really quick way to get out of the duck dive. What's going to happen, you're going to pop up and get washed backwards, and then the energy should dissipate. You have to wait for all the waves to pass, the energy to dissipate, and then paddle back out again.
Yeah. And one question that I know everyone's going to have, and it's something I was about to wrap things up, but one question I know everyone's going to have is pushing with the knee versus pushing with the foot. Is there a golden rule, or is it? Yeah,
so basically if the wave has not got a lot of power and energy, I will conserve the energy and I'll do a knee push under, because you're going to go a lot less deeper. And then as soon as there's a lot of energy in the wave and I will need to get under it, I'm going to go with a deep back foot push under.
Okay, so for the foot is for the deeper duck dives. Cool.
Yes, all got to do with conserving your energy. You might have to do 5 duck dives in a row. So if it's really big, I'm going to do 5-foot duck dives. If it's just consistent small little waves, I'll just do knee duck dives. First thing that you do is to get a couple of good strong strokes in. That when you do push the front of the board under, it's nice and stable. If you don't have momentum, the board's going to feel wobbly. Now, I fully extend my arms and I give myself time to let the buoyancy and let the board submerge itself under the water. So if you look at this over here, I take a while and my back knee's off the board. So it's all just straightening my arms and trying to get the nose as deep as possible. The second thing that you want to do is as the wave comes, I push down, and here you can use your knee or you can use your back foot, but this is quite a big set wave, so I use my back foot. And then I push the board and I get it level. Now this is the interesting part. So over here, I bring my head down to the board. So this is what's called the gutter. So here the lip is broken, okay? And this is all turbulence, which you want to stay clear of. But this back here, the wave is still drawing, so there's still energy pulling up. So if I can get ahead of that turbulence, okay, I can then glide through the wave in the back of it. So this is quite interesting over here. Watch what I do next. I go as close as I can to the board, and I actually turn my body to almost glide under that wave. It's like I'm doing, what would you call it, like a snake in breakdance or something.
The worm.
The worm. Yeah, I'm doing the worm.
Breakdancing the worm.
Okay, but it's the best way to get under that curve.
Yeah.
Okay, because that wave is traveling, so I got to hold that worm position and get the timing right where it doesn't catch me.
Yep.
Now, as I get clear, all right, I start to push my head through, and then I push the board through, and I glide up to the surface.
Perfect. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. You got a lot of value out of it. What's been your biggest takeaway? Leave that in the comments below. If you are new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe. Also hit that notification bell. We'll see you in the next video. But until then, get out there and start getting underneath those waves. That was a shit ending.
Probably just tackle your duck dives head on.
All right, cool. Should just have that as the end of the video. If anyone's actually stuck around till the end to watch that, they can hear us just talking shit at the end. Okay, so